In 1804, upon hearing the news from Paris, Ludwig von Beethoven flew into a rage. He grabbed the title page of his newly completed Symphony No. 3, originally dedicated to his hero, and scratched the name out with such violence that he tore a hole straight through the paper. The name he erased was Bonaparte. For years, Beethoven and much of Europe viewed this man as the ultimate champion of democracy. France had recently torn itself apart in a brutal revolution, executing its monarchy and sending thousands to the guillotine during the Reign of Terror. The fractured nation desperately needed a stabilizing force. They found it in an outsider. Born on the island of Corsica, a young Napoleon Bonaparte actually spent his childhood mocking the French as colonizers, but he possessed a rare tactical brilliance. He trained specifically as an artillery commander, mastering the physics and geometry of heavy cannons to control the battlefield. Today, he remains one of history's most fiercely debated figures. We are left to untangle whether he was genuinely a liberator sent to free the masses from oppressive kings, or a power-hungry dictator who hijacked a democratic revolution for his own gain. Finding the truth requires looking past the battlefield to see how he actually weaponized the modern printing press. His rise began with undeniable military skill. At the Siege of Toulon and later the Battle of Arcole, Napoleon dominated older, larger armies. He enforced strict discipline, stopping his soldiers from looting, and used rapid troop movements to execute devastating surprise attacks. He paired these tactics with a powerful psychological appeal. When his forces marched into Italy, he told the public that the French army was there to break their chains. He utilized the political ideals of the Enlightenment, framing himself as a liberator sent to destroy the monarchies that had oppressed them for centuries. But his military limits were quickly exposed. In 1798, he launched an ambitious campaign to capture Egypt and block British trade routes to India. It ended in complete disaster. The British Navy ambushed and destroyed the French fleet. Faced with a trapped, failing campaign, Napoleon secretly abandoned his own army and fled back to Europe. Yet the expedition yielded a massive discovery. His 160 scientists uncovered this stone slab, the Rosetta Stone. You can see the message carved in 3 distinct sections. The bottom text was ancient Greek, providing the exact translation needed to decode the Egyptian hieroglyphics at the top. This scientific triumph provided the perfect cover. By heavily publicizing the cultural discoveries back in Paris, he ensured that the narrative delivered to the public at home overshadowed the military reality on the ground. Despite losing Egypt, he returned to France a national hero. He achieved this by taking direct control over 6 major French newspapers. He personally dictated multi-page bulletins, writing wildly exaggerated accounts of his own bravery and strategic brilliance. He extended this control to the art world, commissioning lavish portraits to cement his myth. One of the most famous images of the era depicts him fearlessly crossing the treacherous Alps on a rearing, majestic warhorse. The historical reality was entirely different. He actually crossed the freezing mountain passes riding a pack mule, guided by a local farmer. He used this carefully manufactured popularity to orchestrate a coup in 1799, overthrowing the fractured French government. To legitimize his new absolute rule, he organized a national referendum, asking the public to vote on a new constitution that placed him in power. This chart shows the scale of his electoral fraud. His administration announced a staggering 99.9% public approval rate for the new constitution. Historical records later proved this was completely fabricated. The true voter turnout barely hovered around 50%. Once in control, his actions openly betrayed the ideals of the revolution. He placed his own brothers on the thrones of conquered nations across Europe. He systematically shut down independent newspapers, rolled back divorce and property rights granted to women, and explicitly reinstated slavery in French colonies. He mastered a new form of media manipulation, leading an exhausted nation to willingly vote its way into a dictatorship. Yet Napoleon understood a cynical reality of governing. To maintain absolute power without constant rebellion, an autocrat must provide the public with a highly functional, stable state. He launched massive administrative reforms to buy the loyalty of the French people. He created the Bank of France to immediately halt hyperinflation and stabilize the currency. He built a centralized national education system and modernized Paris by constructing extensive new water distribution canals and storehouses. His most enduring achievement was a comprehensive written legal framework. Published in 1804, the Napoleonic Code permanently dismantled the remaining structures of French feudalism. It guaranteed strict equality under the law for all male citizens, regardless of their birth or nobility. By enforcing a single, uniform set of laws across his territories, he created a template that forms the foundation of dozens of civil justice systems around the world today. But his unyielding greed for territory eventually outpaced his tactical logic. In 1812, he launched a massive invasion of Russia. Instead of fighting, the Russian forces constantly retreated, setting fire to their own land. Napoleon's army reached Moscow only to find themselves freezing and starving, waiting in an empty, burning city with no supplies. It broke his military machine. A coalition of European powers quickly pushed back, culminating in his final, total defeat at the Battle of Waterloo. Stripped of his crown, he was permanently exiled to St. Helena, a remote, rocky island in the middle of the Atlantic. Ultimately, Napoleon Bonaparte defies the simple categories of hero or villain. He leaves behind a far more terrifying modern reality. Populations will gladly surrender their freedom to a dictator, as long as they are provided with civil stability and a masterful campaign of public relations.